Hello comic book fans, here's Al Gray, and today I really can speak about comic books because even though it looks a bit different, like maybe some trades or so, these are collected editions of comic books, even though they're a bit oversized, like you will see here. Quite a bit bigger than your usual American comic book. And you can get them in two versions, either as a trade, but yeah, why should you do that when you can get this pretty unusual but somehow pretty clever package? You buy all 6 issues in one package and you get this cardboard box. Actually, it's supposed to be this way here. The paper is excellent. You got no ads, oversize, guaranteed a complete series, which is not. You can't take this for granted when series stop right there in the middle and are interrupted because they sold less than the publisher believed. And stuff like that. This is all safe from that kind of rubbish. Even though I have to say, I pulled these books here from different sources and all were a bit squeezed here. So it seems inevitable that you would get a bit of a damage onto these cardboard boxes, which was, for me, the reason why I put them in this way here, and then it's okay, I guess. But the books for themselves arrived mint in at my house here because they were shrink wrapped and so on. So all of the 4 of the series here were pretty enjoyable. Nothing that changed my perception of comics. Actually, in contradiction to the new format, these felt more or less very generic, remix of common tropes, if you will, but good comic fun. Really, I enjoyed all 4 stories. Maybe my biggest disappointment was this series right there, because Garth Ennis is one of my favorite writers. Steve Epting is a fantastic artist. I mean, I liked Velvet a lot. Elizabeth Breitweiser is just one of the best colorists around. So I thought this would be a surefire hit. But what worked, for an instance, in Velvet with Steve Epting's art, it doesn't work here to show us some kind of realistic Second World War scenario in which we have these Russian hit women who kill Nazis like no other. These ladies are just too beautiful, to make it short. And they're just some centimeters before you could see them walking in high heels through the snow. They don't do that, but you know what I mean. On top of it, Garth Ennis, maybe he thought that his story, as an aside, the only halfway normal-looking woman is the biggest psycho of these hit women, which is a bit strange as well. Of course, here the art is beautiful and the colors shine, and so if you can enjoy the Russian winter, here we have the psycho woman there. And the story is okay and has its twists and turns, but somehow Garth Ennis thought, hey, the story is maybe too normal, so let's chop the story up into some pieces and fool around with the timeline. So we have lots of unnecessary flashbacks and flash forwards that weren't necessary, in my opinion. Just heard the story and Yeah, so far I guess it is the least successful story that I've read by Garth Ennis, and still an enjoyable comic, but yeah, I just expected more of that team. The fearsome Dr.Fang. Never have heard of Chun and Weiss, who wrote the story here, nor Dan mcdaid, who draw it, which is quite a surprise because art-wise this series here is such a treat. And the story is just a remix of pulp tropes, nothing less, nothing more. I mean, you have a super villain who is actually the superhero. This is not actually a spoiler because it happens pretty soon in the story. The whole series plays around 1900 or 1906. So it has a bit of this long gone pulpish flair to it, and I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, the series won't make you 1 inch more intelligent, for sure. But I had fun to feel my brain shrink while reading the story here. And I, don't need necessarily more of the stuff here, but it was real fun while it lasted. Which is somehow a good cue to this series, Lonesome Days and Savage Nights, aka the Manning Files, Volume 1, which suggests there will be a Volume 2. And actually, with this series, I would pick up a second series, because eventually I liked the series. I had some problems with issue 1 because the art is... tries a bit too much experiments at the computer and combining different sources. You get double pages like this, who are pretty amazing, I feel. And this is just here the premise. We have a PI who can turn into a werewolf. So this has its ups and downs, especially in his line of work, I guess. But so he can draw some fantastic monsters, but his referencing of photos has its limitations. Some facial expressions are a bit off. This page here is actually the worst, and in particular this panel right there, with this paper doll cutout figure, very stiff looking, and look like she moves across the street. Not great art at all, and unfortunately this is a very important part in the story because she's killed off on the next page, and so we had no time at all to build some kind of relationship to her, but she and the memory of her is one of the most, the strongest motivators for our PI to continue his work and his mission, if you will. But to be fair, even though his art really has its flaws here and there, sometimes it really shines, and I mean, it fits the narrative and the story, and sometimes I even felt reminded of Tony Harris, for example, the artist behind Starman and Ex Machina, one of the greatest of these artists who work with photo references. I mean, this face here really screams Tony Harris to me, even though in combination with the colors and stuff, Tony Harris does much better, and this blood splattering on these pages is pretty effectful, but sometimes a bit overdone as well. But overall, I really thought pages like these, for instance, really, I really liked them. And overall, the premise proved to be a pretty good basis for, somehow exciting, pulpy crime story with werewolves. Werewolves, there are more than just him. Now to the last series, Redfork, and while with all the other series, even with Lonesome Days and Savage Nights, the art was more or less the selling factor for me, aside of the format, of course. It was the different way around in hindsight with Redfork here, because, yeah, look at the covers, they don't look pretty exceptional. This is quite interesting cover there, but the others, I don't know. Of course, you see there's obviously something horror-ish going on here. And that the art really is not it's serviceable at best, and especially in the beginning, I feel. But here it's really the story by Alex Paknadel, who delivered an evolution into straight horror in this coal mining town with all these small-minded people there who still have lots of heart and bigger problems, and they are confronted with plain evil. That was a surprising good read and an interesting read. I don't want to make it better than it was, because the art was really, not that great. But yeah, I started with issue 1 and read right through issue 6. And that's actually my way of reading books. So I was never a Wednesday warrior, because this is just not a thing here in Germany. And when you're used to read your stories from start to finish, but you want to experience the feel of reading this in a comic book, which has really its benefits, because you don't have Gatalos in the middle, and you held a light book right there that you can bend and put aside. By the way, have I mentioned the paper here? This is fantastic paper on all of these books, so I felt all these packages are really worth your attention and maybe your money, but choose for yourselves. Maybe sometimes the stories will be as great as the packaging. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.